This is Storytellers and Storysellers live on tape. You're listening to me, Vineet Kanabar, on the IVM Podcast Network. On this show, every week, we talk to entertainers and business brains behind great entertainment. We've spoken to musicians, actors, writers, directors. We've spoken to founders, CEOs, game designers, drone operators. Today, for the first time, we're talking to someone who designs interior spaces. Someone who's traveled the journey from creating spaces for film to now creating spaces for people to work out of and live in. Please give a storyteller's welcome to Rupin Suchak. Rupin, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much.
I feel so good to have a Gujarati bro on this call, right? First things first. I love talking to people who are from my community.
Are you?
That's
Oh, of course,
yeah,
you're a good
yeah.
you. Oh, wow. Fellow
Yeah,
good you, man. High
fully,
five.
man. Lohana for the win.
Oh, same here.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's
Right?
high five, man. That's
And
amazing.
so Lohanas are like business class Gujus, right? People who are working.
I am not. Unfortunately, that nerve in me is not there for
Yeah?
business. Yeah. But
Well-
my dad is, so I think that's where
कहीं ना कहीं तो है.
कुछ ना कुछ तो है. Yes.
बिल्कुल. We're going to talk to Rupin about his journey with spaces.
Yeah.
Rupin has done some amazing work designing film sets for movies that you've definitely seen. He's also done some amazing work designing spaces for celebrities like Balki, Alia Bhatt, Sonakshi Sinha, bunch of
Yeah.
others.
Yeah.
And the reason why I have him on this show is because he's designed a wonderful space for himself and his 4 cats and 2 dogs in Bombay. Rupin, you're a NIFT graduate.
I am. Yes.
Must be a while back now. I think.
It was a while back. It was 2005. 2005-09. So
Mhm.
I graduated in 2009. from
Oh wow.
New Delhi.
Let me ask you this, right? And again, I've had run-ins with a bunch of folks from NIFT. What is it about that college that does things slightly differently? Is there something that you'd attribute there, your time at NIFT? Yeah, my worldview was shaped by these few things at this college.
Yeah, there are a lot of rich people in there. So, so you want to become rich. That's how it is. And I think it inspires you a lot in a lot many ways.
Mhm.
And I spent a lot of time there for 5 years, so to say. 5 years in NIFT changed everything for us because it was all a game of making something happen and trying to do something that was not done by anybody else in the college. And that's how I think every college works, because I've not really seen the working of any other college. But
I mean, not outside of
NIFT.
the creative spaces. I'm pretty sure my college people just wanted to get pass होने का grade चाहिए.
Acha, oh, that's the thing.
I'm an engineer, but
Yeah,
anyway.
okay. So we always wanted to do something being in the college itself. So right from the beginning, we always I wanted to be starting something of my own from the first year itself. So a lot of freelance projects happened.
Right.
There were a lot of crazy stories of I was a very you could say I came from a very middle class background, and I started my studies itself and hit a rock really hard in the beginning of my studies in the first year itself, where I did not have money to pay for my tuition fees from the second year onwards.
Right.
So a lot of my friends helped me out, past that junction of life. But it was very interesting, and it was beautiful how things just manifested, and how I did. There were assignments, so their design assignments is something that's very creative. So
Right.
that's not something that you need to learn and imbibe, and it's not that zone. So
You have to produce.
you have to
right?
produce things, and you have to think and bring it out on paper or installations or whatever we say.
There's jury all the time.
Absolutely.
Right.
So I remember making a lot of things I'm not going to name the person, but I remember making a lot of things for my senior who was in the 3rd year, and he used to pay me for that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that was college, man. And that's a big part of learning, I would say, because from the beginning you want to be in the game, and there are a lot of people there who run with that. A lot of people come from different areas of our country, different sects of our country, and they want to really make something happen, and they want to become something in life. And I think that zest itself was very enthusiastic, I think, for us. And we did something tried doing something in life, and we are designers now. We are practicing professionals.
I love it, man. I think one of the things that whether it's NIFT or even folks at the similarly named but very, very different NID, the sense that I get is your focus, or the focus that you have there on creating and producing, is so heavy that it's always pushing the boundary and doing new things, right? You said there was a zest to do something and to be something, right? And if I take you back to 2005 or 2006 when you stepped in, what did you want to be after?
I would say that time I wanted to have enough money to survive, and I used to see a lot of these kids come in, and I always had the creative instinct, so to say, to do something creative, and I always picked that stream for myself. I just made sure that I'm not going to cross that over to anything else. Be in that perspective always. But money making was very important for me. So I thought I am going to be successful in this aspect at least. So there were people who I would look up to. I would, during parties, I remember I would chat with the parents more than the kids. So, they would be like, my friends would be like, what is happening? Papa ke sath kyun baatein kar raha hai? Like, why aren't you chatting with us? But there is a lot of learning that I still get inspiration from the talks that I still remember from them. And I think that really inspires at a lot of junctions in life.
Right.
And it just helps us out massively.
That's awesome, man. I want to draw attention to what you've done since college, right? And
sure.
Saurabh, my producer, has been very nice to write this down for me. So thanks, Saurabh.
Sure.
Thanks, Saurabh. Rupin Suchak was mentored after college by India's finest Sabu Cyril. Before beginning his professional career, he's ventured as an independent production designer in projects like Happy Ending, Key & Ka, Spider, Padman. Spider was that super immersive strange world situation, right? Dear Zindagi, of course, one of Shah Rukh Khan's greatest films, but of course it's an Alia film, marking an epoch in his career with his quirky sets and sense of design catching the public's fancy. With an experience and professional practice of over 13 years and about 1,000 commercial films.
That's where the money making comes in.
That's mad, dude. That's mad. Like, how do you do this? Okay, so 13 years, 1,000 commercial films. I mean, the maths is tough at this point for me, right? Yeah. But that's mad. 1,000 commercial films and television sets. He's one of the most prolific designers of the fraternity. In his spare time, Rupin's pluralism flirts with art, recycling and spirituality, and is determined to creatively touch every aspect of our physical and virtual landscape. That's so nicely put. I want to focus on a couple of things out of that, right? First of all, what is your working process, right? Process like, right? I mean, because 1,000 projects over 13-year period is prolific square. Right? That's next level.
It's coming live now.
I mean, it is. It's awesome, right? And again, I mean, I'm one of those people who believes that you should throw yourself into as many things. Right? Say yes as often as possible and then try and deliver on as much as possible. But this is next level stuff. What's your process like?
So it all comes together, boils down to the fact how we work in our industry here. And to achieve that number, there was no such number that was in our minds when we together as a team, when we worked and we said that, we want to do like 1,000 sets or something. It just happened by chance. And I suffered a lot of individuals when I went independent from Mr. Sabu Cyril. I suffered a lot of managers who were just, trying to con me. And like I said, I did not have the business eye or the instinct to cater to my business that I was growing on to. So I took help from my father, and he sort of guided me to streamline things for me a little bit.
Right.
And he designed a system of working in terms of doing projects. So how do you design? Like if I have to make design this room, I had the structures which this is my trade secret, but I mean, it's open to everybody to experiment as long as they're able to design it.
Right.
So, I created structures which I was able to reuse and, save a lot of time and save a lot of energy there.
So reuse as in another project, in another
recycle.
Space? Recycle,
yeah. Recycling. Simple as that.
Yeah.
So a lot of people in our industry, they start work from scratch. So, I don't know if you've been on I'm sure you would have been a lot of sets. So we have a lot of platforming, we have tons of
Yo,
walls coming
oh,
up and foley work and this and
Yeah.
that. So it's crazy. So
Yeah.
amount of management that gets into is a lot of time waste actually. So
And money.
And money of course is associated, but a lot of time waste and a lot of time pass happens in that avenue, so to say. So this particular system that I work with is basically is based on purely fabrication structures and stuff, where it's a scaffolding game that I play with, and it's something that I had seen long back, and it was just one of the sets on Agneepath. I remember when.
Right.
I was working with Mr. Sabu Cyril. I had observed this contractor do that, and I had that thing in my mind that if we work with this kind of setup, it would just save a lot of time and money and energy, of course. So in that aspect, I ended up making a lot of for the first few projects. I made a lot, like for example, one of the movies, Ki and Ka, was my first massive major feature film that was offered by Balki, and in that I did a lot of I procured a lot of material. I invested, you could say, a lot of money of mine, where I was able to reuse that same material in a certain way for my other films and stuff, and also the ad films. So that, being a designer, I was able to put together those elements in a way that served the purpose of the client, and I was able to make sure that the design looks strikingly amazing for myself. And I think when that hit the chord, it was just a matter of time where everybody, it's industry, man. So it's really, it's on fire, and everybody knows that, okay, yeah, there's some kid who's doing this really fast. Some set that is coming up. I mean, I don't think I have seen sets bigger than what I have done first in the industry. My team has done first in the industry, then I don't remember the last time anybody else has done that.
Right.
Because we changed the game of doing massive sets, and really, because we wanted to play. We had the ground, we had the material, we had everything. So if a set was coming up like in a very grassroots level, if I were to say a 3-bedroom hall kitchen space that had to be created. In films, we create sets.
Right.
So when we create sets, normally any production designer or an art director would take about 7 to 8 days to construct that. I devised a system that would get that done in a day and a half or 2 days max. I would do the finishing the 3rd day, and 4th day we would shoot.
Right.
Now that's a massive cost saving for the producer.
Of course.
So suddenly there was this talk where every film that we did, I mean to say ad film, was talk of the town. And we did some super huge sets. We created Chandni Chowk, we created Lisbon, we created everything that was possible, streets to interiors, everything.
Right.
And I just had to make sure that the designer in me was always supporting the producer in me also,
Right.
parallelly, so that everything was just able to come together. Otherwise, one would end up making losses. And that's how we did. There were times when the producers would say, okay, we have a setup happening here, can we do it here? I would say, no, I'm setting up in Film City. So if you want to really work with me, let's set it up in Film City, get the floor here, and let's do it up here. And they would agree.
Right.
And we would end up creating sets. And I remember this time when there were 12 sets on 12 floors in Film City, and each floor had about 4 sets, 3 sets. It was crazy. And I think, it was a rampage.
It's
And
mad.
it was crazy because I was doing this movie called Inshallah with Sanjay Leela Bhansali, which did not happen because of a few circumstances. So yeah, on that movie, I worked a year with him so closely. I did not do anything else, and I was broke.
Right.
And I wanted to be rich again.
Right.
So the Guju in me is like, boss, now it's time. Bas ho gaya.
Dhando kya che?
Dhando kya che? And we were like, hey, boss, now abhi just keep it aside for a year.
Right.
We need to just balance out things, and then we'll see if we want to do a feature. So that's when this happened, and we went, and I remember doing some 272 ads that year.
Oh, wow.
And I was shooting every single day.
Right.
There was not a single day when I did not shoot. I would say yes to everything possible. And I was like, I'm just taking it up. And I remember my team strength going to 62 that time, and I was not able to handle it.
Right.
And that's when everyone in the house was like, where are you, man? You don't exist. Like, you are here and you're everywhere. So I was...
But dhando yahan che.
Dhando tyahan chhato.
Correct.
So we were like, boss, this is what it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was 1,000 set stories.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
I think right from your personal drive to be rich, which is an absolutely great drive to have, to your principle of figuring out how to reuse stuff so that your time to market is shorter and how you can build
Absolutely.
things faster, to the fact that you're willing to scale your team up to 60 people, because it's not easy to
It's
manage
not easy.
60 creative
Yeah.
production individuals all
Absolutely.
working together at the pace that you're doing,
Absolutely.
right? And I mean, I don't know how many of my listeners have been to sets, but the set is where the action happens, right?
Absolutely.
You need it to look a certain way
Absolutely.
and feel a certain way. All of
Absolutely.
that. Let me ask you this, right? And to be very basic about it,
Yeah.
right? What entails putting together production for a set, right? What's your team like? What kind of people do you work with? My understanding is that you'll have a lot of folks who have, production and procurement. You'll have a lot of folks who are design and visual and taste. You'll obviously work with the writing side of things as well, right?
Yeah.
But break it down for us, maybe in 5 easy steps.
Yeah. So in terms of the team, I keep it very simple.
Mhm.
I do not work the way I used to work earlier.
Sure.
I have a lot of fractals happening now. I want to play a lot with my creatives, so I do not work like that.
Mhm.
So in terms of, I do one project at a time now,
Sure.
and everyone is there. So I have a very limited team now that works very closely with me,
Mhm.
and they exactly know what I want in terms of the deliverables, and they procure exactly what I want.
Sure.
So I just need to just tell them that, boss, this is what we want, and it comes there.
Sure.
So we've reached that level, I think, together as a team. So we have people like basic managers, on-set managers. So there is every project, there is a prep time that we take.
Right.
Before jumping into the project, we set a timeline of about a week or 4 days or 3 days for prepping for a project.
Mhm.
Then we jump onto the project on the floor. So if you've seen any of the floors, and for the
Right.
listeners, there are these floors, which by floors we mean there are these massive spaces which we have in Mumbai where shoots happen predominantly, and that's where we erect the sets. And there are different various sizes depending upon the logistics of the producer and the requirement of the storytelling. We decide what stage to hire, and we get into the stage setup.
Mhm.
So then we have the core team, which is my assistants, which is the first lineup of the team right after me, who will make sure that there will be then bifurcation in them.
Mhm.
One is going to handle the drawings, one is going to handle the construction material, one is going to make sure that anything that needs to be procured from outside is procured correctly by the managers who are running in the market.
Right.
There is on-set manager, there is one manager who is outside always. So it's a very streamlined, very basic system of working. We do not complicate it. Things get out of hands when at times when we have like 3-4 sets happening. But that is still managed as long as we've got time.
Mhm.
So that happens. And then the primary, so if my assistant who is there, which is, say I have 5 assistants, they are given 5 jobs to do.
Right.
I always purely make sure that the design of the space comes exactly the way I want it to
Sure.
be.
Sure.
And I make sure that it is absolutely striking. It is something that is thematic or storytelling if it has to be. So one of those essential integral parts of my job,
Mhm.
which is production design, is this, that we make sure that either the thing is, so we'll come on to the production design bit, but just to say that if it is a storytelling bit, then okay, what is the material that comes in, and how do we get, what are the kind of carpenters who will be doing that kind of a job.
Mhm.
So there are different head mysteries. Mysteries, by mysteries we mean carpenters here.
Yeah.
So there is a head carpenter who handles a core team of say about 150 workers or 200 workers on set.
Wow.
So the tree gets bigger now.
Yeah.
So it starts from me with 3 people under me and 4 managers under me, which then leads to 1 mistri or 2 mistries depending on the number of people.
Mhm.
They fractal out to about at least 100 people on floor. And so that's one department of carpentry that gets into it.
Right.
Then we have different departments like welders, we have painters. So there are heads for each of these departments
Mad.
who would be reporting to my assistants
Right.
and subsequently to me in terms of the work that needs to be carried out. So that's the tree that we're talking about.
That sounds fully exciting and very daunting.
Yeah.
To be
It
very
is.
honest,
It
right?
is.
When you say it, I'm sure even
It
you're
is.
thinking, "Yaar, itna sara,"
हाँ,
matlab
हाँ.
it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, right? And before we go into a break, what has been so far the most challenging, exciting film project that you've worked on, right? Like something that felt really fulfilling,
Yeah.
and something that felt, hey man, this is out of my comfort zone. I really need to level up my game. So maybe 2 examples.
So one example was I still remember this. I think it's the fastest set that we ever made in the history of Bollywood. I can very proudly say that.
Right.
And it happened to be on the same floor in Yashraj Studios number 3, where I got a call from Ganesh Hegde at night.
Right.
And I was at a friend's wedding in Delhi, and he calls me up and he's like, Rupin, we want to create this set for this movie called Dilwale. And Sharabi Kende Ne, I don't know if you know the song.
Right.
So he's like, we want to create these sets, and there is a production designer for the movie who's working, but he used to work with me very closely earlier. So it's been a while we've collaborated. So he said that, okay, we need to collaborate over this project and we need to execute this. But the issue is, Mr. SRK has given time to shoot tomorrow night.
Right.
And this we are talking at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm in Delhi. I come back to Mumbai. Everything is happening on the phone. 6 o'clock in the evening is when the shift starts. I mean, obviously, when you have timelines like these, we do not look at the shifts.
Right.
So we went on to execute the project at 6 in the evening. We had time till next 6 o'clock. Next day, 6 o'clock. That's exactly 24 hours. And we wanted 2 massive sets.
Right.
I remember having 300 carpenters on the floor and roughly about 162 people. That is 462 people on the floor.
Wow.
I could just see people. I could not even see the material. It
Right.
was that many number of people running around. And there were 2 sets we were doing. So on the floors adjoining. So yeah, we divided the labor there, here and there, and it was just chaos. And we knew that we had to crack the night with whatever ideas that would come and stuff. So yeah, we went on doing it, and we did something that was it was Happy New Year. It was not. I was just trying to remember the name.
Right,
It was
right,
Happy New Year, Sharabi Kende Ne. And yeah, the set. turned
Yeah,
out-
Happy New Year now feels like, oh yeah, that's a big
Yeah.
sets. in
Yeah,
that
big
sense.
sets.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So yeah, we executed those 2 sets, and it was quite a game. So that was one instance, and it was a challenge, man. I really wanted to record that, but that could not happen because the number of people, you could not see anything on the
अभी
floor.
24 घंटे में आप सेट बनाओगे रिकॉर्ड
मतलब वो that was, but you know, these are the moments where you actually need to game up and do something and, you know, cover it and make sure that, you know, it's out there for people to
Yeah.
see that what is possible in India.
Yeah.
So from the perspective of filmmaking in India, this was a benchmark.
Definitely.
Like, I know people from abroad when I show them what we do here in the number of days, because the labor is fantastic. They don't have hang-ups. They do not have anything which you would say that, you know, these are the deadlines. These are the rules. We have our set of rules that we play by. But I think it's phenomenal how our industry works. It's
Right.
amazing to see the kind of madness everybody has when they get onto the floor, or something enters them when they're working on the floor, and it's just crazy because you are just there and you want to perform and do something, and something just comes out of it.
And these are the unsung heroes of Bollywood, right?
Absolutely.
They are the guys
Absolutely.
who really,
Absolutely.
literally put it together by
Absolutely.
their hands. It's awesome.
It's amazing.
Right. Before we wrap up this segment and go into a break, your most sort of creatively fulfilling set or series of sets.
Oh, there are a lot of sets, but this one set I remember in Dear Zindagi, when we shot for a night of this beautiful song called Tareefon se nahi tu maanne wali. So I remember that night when we were shooting at the beach, and I told Gauri, I want to go back to the hotel because I have a setup to do tomorrow, and tomorrow night we're shooting that song. So she's like, no, you sit with me, you chill, and you know we'll have a good time here, and look at the shoot, it's so beautiful. And I was like, okay, fair enough. It was really nice. So I just kept on chilling there, and cut to, it was morning, and chai is happening, everything is happening. Now I just realized that these buggers are going to go and sleep, and I have to work in the morning because I have to work. I have to bring up the set.
Something has to go.
Yeah. So I went on to, and my assistants went back saying that, sir, we'll just have a shower and we'll come back. They never came back. they just passed out.
Right.
And it was shot in Goa, so obviously everyone's having whatever, and they've gone out, they are buzzing and they're sleeping now. They're going to get up in the evening, and it was I did not know what to do, and I was standing on location as I just thought that okay, if somebody, so one of my managers, I just told him that make sure that the material reaches. But the material did not reach because there was some one-way thing that was happening, and the material could not come. And I remember there was nothing, and this was like at about 12 in the afternoon. I'm still struggling to make sure that the material reaches from, because the hotel of the crew is always stationed away from the cities because it's a logistical
Right.
working that we have to do.
Right.
So we did that, and I happened to find a tree which was very big and astonishing because the leaf size was like 2 feet,
Right.
24 inches,
Right.
and I had never seen something like that. So
Like a tree, like with
the
a
massive
trunk and a
tree,
Oh, wow,
trunk,
okay.
proper tree.
Right.
तो उसके बहुत सारे पत्ते थे जो नीचे गिरे हुए थे,
Right.
and they were dried. They were
Right.
beautiful. And so this is one part of what I do, and using things which are available everywhere. So I just thought, okay, yaar, and I could see more than some 10,000 leaves just there
Lying around.
lying around, and I was like, why not pick it up and do something artsy with this, and do an installation art with this. I had the space, of course, but I thought that was it. And yeah, that still remains my favorite set in my life. You should see that. Tareefon se nahi manne wali.
Tareefon se nahi manne wali. I will check that out.
Yeah.
Great talking to you so far. I'm going to go into
I
a
love
quick
it.
break.
Sure.
We'll be back talking to Rupin Suchak about his latest avatar as someone who doesn't just create spaces for imaginary worlds, but is creating spaces for real people to work out of, live in, and bringing his principles from film into interiors. Don't go anywhere. This is Vineet Kanabar on Storytellers and Storysellers. We'll be back after these messages.
Hello, everybody. It's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. I hope you guys are checking out Has It Aged Well on the IVM Pop feed, what used to be IVM Likes. I know it's complicated, but it's well worth your time. This week, Abbas and Urchita revisit Sanjay Bhansali's 2002 offering Devdas. Joining them for this conversation is die-hard SRK fan Pulkit Kochar. On Postcards from Nowhere, Utsav discovers the connection between the iconic rock band Led Zeppelin, the children's classic Chronicles of Narnia, and Harry Potter. On This Round is on Me, Gauri talks to chef Thomas Zacharias, founder of the Locavore. He shares his views about greenwashing, plant-based meats, and the concept of sustainability. On Think Fast, Varun and Suchita discuss Tesla's new Optimus robot, Trevor Noah quitting The Daily Show, and a whole lot more. And on Varta Lab's storytelling session, Akash and Naveen's conversation takes a political turn as they are joined by friend and fellow stand-up comic Puneet Pania. Guys, go to our website, ivmpodcast.com. You can check out the merch store, also links to all of our social media stuff, which is at IVM Podcast. Also, do check out our YouTube channels. We have a number of channels with many of your favorite shows available as full video podcasts. Finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Volvo XC40 Recharge, Bumble, Heads Up for Tails, and HDFC Mutual Fund. Thank you so much for making this possible.
And we're back. This is Storytellers and Storysellers. You're listening to Vineet Kanabar talk to Rupin Suchak about some amazing stuff that Rupin has put together that you have definitely seen on some films. Before the break, we talked about Rupin's work for the screen. Rupin has, over the past couple of years, also started designing interior spaces.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
And how did that happen? I mean, is that something that you always wanted to try, or was it something that you just like got welcomed into? How did that happen to you?
Serendipity, bro. I never wanted to try. I was very happy with whatever little I managed to make in my career of production designing, and I was getting the name on the screen, and everything was just feeling very, very nice and, how do they say, laced with whatever. So, yeah, I was very settled unless... I remember Balki sir, after I did his movie called Ki and Ka and a lot of other projects for him, a lot of commercials. He's a very close individual that I inspire myself at every instance in life, and who inspires me a lot. So he happened to commission me for his office, which he had taken, and it was a very sarkari daftar IMPA office. The moment you get onto Pali Hill at the top, on the left side, there's like an arch. It still has the board of old IMPA office, whatever. So that's the Producers Association. the Senior Producers Association. So one of that office premise, which he rented out, and he's like, Rupin, I want to do this up. Of course, it's a rented space, so why don't we play the way we do sets, and why don't we? And he's a man of experiments.
Right, of course.
So he wanted to experiment, and he's like, do what you like. I'm not getting into it. And I was like, why not? So for the first time, I had no experience of doing any interiors any which ways, but I look at a space just like a space. Simple as that. So मैं ये नहीं सोचता हूँ कि यार the utility point of view of things were not my priority that time. So I just wanted to make sure to make it as good as possible, that anybody walks in, they're like, wow, who's done this?
Right.
So I always made sure that that little factor
The
wow factor had to be brought in, because it's not something I have done before.
Right.
So for me, if I invest my time and energy into something, I will make sure that if it doesn't pay me, it's fine. But I have to make sure that it pays me in some manner, be it recognition or be it somebody really enjoying the space or whatever it is.
I mean, that's such an important thing. I want to just pause for 1 second and talk about that, right? Because a lot of folks are in things for money. Paisa nahi ban raha hai, to hum ye nahi karenge. Versus, look at you looking at, I mean, being accomplished enough, doing 1,000 films, and still looking at, hey, a new space, a new project, as a way to challenge yourself and impress others, right? Whoever enters this space. I think there's a lesson for young people to take from that. But back to
Absolutely. So I think that's the card I play all the time.
Right.
So it's not something that I lived only for one project, for my starting project. So I did that project. It turned out as quirky as possible that any office could be. I think it was how do I say this? I've never seen a project like this, so I do not have an example to give you guys. But yes, it was very unique in its own way. It was very quirky. So if you happen to visit that area, you can just peep and you'll see a massive installation which is created with threads, recycled threads, and it's just called Hope, because that's the production's name is Hope Production.
Right.
So I've created this very beautiful big installation called Hope, and that itself started talking. And Balki sir is like, boss, this is it. Like, let's go bonkers over it. I don't care. So you do what you want. So we created many such beautiful elements in and around the space. I painted the whole floor epoxy of different colors, and something that is not his character, because there was no such brief. So, the moment you don't have brief, then whatever I like, I would do. Simple as that. I want to surround myself with stuff that I like.
Right.
And I just made sure that I did that. And it's just that rule that, if I do something, I should feel happy about it. If I'm wearing a pajama today, I wanted to feel comfortable and happy about it.
Right.
I don't care how it is perceived by somebody else, but I think put together everything just works well in a manner. Of course, it's a very subjective thing to say, but of course that's how it is. So I think somewhere, we resonated at the same level, me, Balki sir, Gauri, everybody, in terms of aesthetics. And everything worked very well. Office turned out beautiful, quirky. Everybody who entered the office was looking forward to come to the office. Now, that was something that I had never experienced, because on sets, people just walk in, shoot, they get out.
Yeah.
Here, people from the office, I remember, because I am very closely associated with the team, I remember people, the help of the office telling me, Rupin sir, kya office bana hai? Maza aa raha hai office aane mein.
Beautiful.
The moment they said maza aa raha hai office aane mein, the game changed for me.
Right.
And I was like, boss, this is a guru mantra. You should pick this up for every site of mine. Whoever is using it should be able to say this, ke yaar, maza aa gaya.
Right.
I remember, thereafter I did about 30 sites in 1.5 years I have done. Offices, residential projects, music studios, everything that you can imagine. So even in terms of these spaces, these things have just come by, and I am seeing my clients. Some people, I know, I'll name a few. Like, I did Sunidhi Chauhan's studio.
Right.
It was to be done in like a month's time. We completed in 22 days. it was before time. So that itself was a big winner for them because they are like interior project before time. कैसे हो सकता
Never
है?
unheard of, right?
मतलब it's not heard of.
Yeah.
So it happened because obviously I was doing a few projects and we are accustomed to working in 3-4 days. So we made sure that we asked the client about the timelines, and they say that we have a month to do so. And we like, oh, एक महीना बहुत ज़्यादा है. मतलब एक महीना क्या है? We'll finish it in like 15 days. We still hit 22 days. But I remember when Sunidhi walked in, she was speechless. She had tears.
Beautiful.
She had tears, bro. And I felt so happy about the fact that my client is emotional. She's able to emotionally connect to the space. Now,
Right.
that is very important for interior spaces, I feel now.
Right.
Having done this much in the area, I feel that if the space does not speak to somebody, it's of no use. It should motivate someone. Of course, all those things are there.
For sure.
Epithets, of course, are there. But they were very emotional about it. All my clients.
Right.
That was one. So as soon as Balki's office was done, a lot of these actors started visiting because it's a production office. Now, any
Right.
production that's running, you'll have the cast and crew, everybody visiting the office for whatever purposes.
Right.
Alia happened to visit because I think the post-production of Dear Zindagi was on that time. And she was getting this space above her house in Juhu at GG Apartments. Yeah. So she bought this massive 4,000 square feet space which she wanted to do up. So she just called me up and she's like, Rupin, I want to meet you, and why don't you come down and let's check this out. I said, fair enough, let's meet. So I went, we saw the space. I was excited because of course I had never done an interior project before. This was a full scale interior project.
Right.
And
To a brief, right? Not like
to a
Balki.
brief, of course.
Yeah.
And topping that factor, it was a celebrity project.
Right.
Not just a celebrity,
Alia Bhatt.
Alia Bhatt.
Right.
So it was a big thing for me, of course, but fortunately, we spent so much time on the shoots that it never felt that I am going to work for a star. So
Right.
somewhere you get intimidated in that process.
Sure.
So that did not happen with me. It was just like another project for me.
Right.
So we went on to do that. There was a timeline discussed that we delivered and stuff. But it just turned out so well. Again,
What was the brief like at that point?
nothing. It was just that she wanted a space which was what she would call, it was supposed to be an office. So she wanted to, make sure that it's not intimidating, because offices normally just tend to, the moment somebody enters, you're like, oh man, yaar, ye to bahut zyada, matlab yahan to, matlab घबरा रहे हैं हम लोग, घुटन हो रही है, whatever. So so that factor, she was like, I want to keep away. She wanted to keep it light. She wanted to keep it very pastely and stuff. So yeah, and the kind of person that she is, very easygoing, very, very, very cool vibe, very easy
Right.
person to deal with and stuff. I just thought that, okay, that factor needs to be brought in here, and we need to make sure that the space itself is very light. The moment you walk in, you just feel that you are just there, like it's like a cafe.
Right.
So it could not be intimidating at any point of time, and we made sure that never happened. The unconventional way of my working, of incorporating something that somebody is going to speak about, or is going to gain somebody's attention, and that person is going to initiate the conversation upon, that is always brought in. So that is something that is my matter of trade. So I make sure that is brought in, and that happened. There are pictures online, you can see it.
This space is called Eternal Sunshine.
Yeah,
Right?
that's the production.
That's what
Yes,
the
absolutely.
place is called.
So there's this massive picture window which opened into the passage and just got a lot of light in, and it worked beautifully. I had very senior contractors that I relied on, because I was not technically strong that time in terms of knowing, because I hired a few architects for the job to help me out do the things, but I just made sure that the design of the space was something that I chose and I designed. And the layouting is very, very simple, fairly simple, because we always do that for any spaces. Even on films, we create spaces.
Right.
So for us, spaces are spaces. It's not something that you would say that you will demark a set to have 3-bedroom and a kitchen and a whatever, and this a house would be treated differently.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Right.
So just to fuse it together, we made sure that it was absolutely amazing in terms of the utility. It was a very unheard of, unseen kind of an office where there is an actor's trial happening. She holds the meetings there. There is a production table that's open for discussion. Now everything has to happen in this massive, beautiful living room. There's also a sit-out space for personal conversations if they want to have. So all these things that were addressed to worked very beautifully, and the vibe itself was very light and airy, and it was just beautiful. So it was very boho, very 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 Mediterranean, so to say.
We'll link the article with pictures of Alia's Eternal Sunshine office design
yeah,
by
you
Rupin
must,
into the comments, or I'm sorry, there are no comments on podcast, into the description, and be sure to check it out.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this, and I think I've heard you say this a couple of times, but I think it merits a deeper conversation. There has to be some difference in how you approach a film versus an actual livable space, right?
Yeah.
You talked about how people said, "Yahan फिर से आने का मन करता है," is a feeling, definitely, right?
Yeah.
So that's maybe on the softer, emotional, experiential side of things. But from a technical side of things, is it really different the way you approach it, or like you said, actually उतना फर्क नहीं है? I approach it the same way. How would you?
I approach it the same way.
Right.
Absolutely. It's head on. I approach it exactly the same way. Even when I make my sets, I like people to walk in. I make sure that my set is lit, even if it is not lit by a cinematographer. I light my sets a certain way. I present them a certain way. I do not allow people to take pictures. I click pictures if the director wants to see it, because I am telling the story. I am the production designer. So it is my visual. It is my identity which I'm trying to put forward,
Right.
and connect your storytelling,
Right.
which is your director's vision.
Sure.
So if I'm putting it a certain way, I want it to be told a certain way. I do not want just a person to click any picture of, like, it's about, let's talk about this room. You have these beautiful things happening here. If just somebody enters and clicks a picture of this grey wall, it defies the purpose.
Exactly. Right.
So I would make sure that things are covered a certain way in the way it has to be shot, in the way it has to be told. I lace it that way, and I present it to the person.
Right.
It's the same with interiors.
Right.
We collaborate with a client. We make sure that everything is presented the way we want it to be. We do not at any point of time, we do not tell the client that, okay, you can come when you want, you can do what you want, and so there's a lot of boundary in terms of, it's a creative call taking.
Right. Right.
So what happens is, if a space has to be shown, it needs to be shown a certain way, because there is so much material online today. The person will 100% get confused as to, I don't feel a certain vibe when I come here. This is not clean. Some people have allergies. Some people have some crazy things happening in terms of they are not able to understand the space and judge it in the manner it is supposed to be seen.
Right.
Now that factor needs to be roped in, and
Right.
even if you have to put your foot down and say that, boss, aaj nahi ho sakta, I need to get this ready for you, and then you come and see it. It's as simple as that. It's not a rocket science. It's not something that you're trying to take away from the client. But I think that's the system I work with, and
Sure.
that just works beautifully, because people get the essence of the space.
I love the real collaborative spirit that you bring to this, and you seem to have a very clear approach of saying, hey, this is what I am going to do it, this is how I'm going to do it, and you have a role to play, but you've got me on board, so
Absolutely.
I'm here to bring this experience alive for you with a strong creative vision. I want to ask you 3 rapid fire questions before we round this off. My first question, linked to what you were talking about just a little bit earlier, is that sometimes people are not able to see or experience or feel the space the way it's meant. Sometimes people just have bad taste,
Yeah.
right? They want gold everywhere, right?
Yeah, they won't
Actually, let me not ask you about who has bad taste, because that would be horrible. Let me ask you this. If you were to redesign, say, something as garish and out there as we would say, probably super Tate Guju, like the Trump Tower, for
Yeah,
example,
yeah.
right? How would you take that up? Like how would you take up something that is like monumentally bad taste, but try and fix it? Like how do you encounter bad taste in your line of work and still get by?
It happens very often. Of course, we all face that at several levels in our lives. But yeah, there's a lot of convincing that goes on to it, gets into it. We really need to convince our client. And so this is my approach to it. I confuse the hell out of the person sitting ahead. So
Great strategy.
it's a strategy, but this is what it is, guys. And I think everybody should approach this. It works beautifully. So if a person comes up with some good thing, utna to respect hai कि they've hired me, so they will take my opinion for it, right? So I'm not going to say upfront that ये तो घटिया है, or I don't like this. This is not going to suit your space. At times I say it, a lot of times I say it, but when over and over again the same thing happens with the client where these guys are coming up with things which are not suitable for the space, I confuse them.
Right.
I show them 10 different references, but I make sure that if they've started from A and if I'm sitting at M, I slowly drag them out and I show them the references which are towards M.
Right.
And you know, I know that slowly I'm going to drag them to M and make sure that, okay, they're going to say yes to this. That might take a little bit of time, but which is fine as long as you get the space that you want. So I confuse the hell out of them.
Love it. I mean, I think super practical, also super like underhanded, but
Yeah, absolutely.
but
I'm
super
doing that
practical.
with 3 clients right now as we speak.
I'm sure it is a great process that results in a great space for
It's
them,
okay.
right? So
yeah.
as long
that's
as
the idea. That's the idea.
as long as the end really justifies it, right? My second question to you is, I kind of know, speaking to you now, I kind of know what your answer might be, but I'm not going to guess it. What's the sort of one trademark, signature, move, space, feel that a Rupin Suchak space should have or should stand for, according to you?
It's wicked, yeah.
Yeah.
Every space has to be wicked for me.
Right.
Now, I mean, I'm just talking about spaces in general. So be it a set or interiors or an element of installation that I would create, or a painting for that matter, or I just did for a friend. I made this little friend's bacha had something in school, and he wanted something crack, so made a whale. This thing, whale ka this, I don't know, boat kind of a thing. There's no such name for it, but yeah. So did that. It's crazy. So just getting involved with that and going crazy over anything. So be it you give me this room, I'll do something maybe on one wall which I know that the moment people walk in, they're going to talk about it. Like the most fascinating thing here would be this kind of a bobblehead, which is right here.
Right.
It fascinated me. I asked him about it, and that's what. So this room has this. My room has to have one element, which is the showstopper.
Right.
Person has to stop and ask about it. Yeah, who's done this?
Right.
I need that attention. I need that attention in my spaces. I need that attention in my storytelling of art or sets or anything.
Wonderful.
So that needs to come out. And the moment that comes out, that's my style. That's my signature.
Love it. I thought as much as that you'd go towards something like this, but you've put it really very nicely. That something that grabs attention, something that starts a conversation,
Yeah.
something that gets people to ask, hey, who's done this?
Yeah.
This is super clear in what effect you want your spaces to have on people. Let me ask you my last sort of rapid fire question, right?
Yeah.
You seem to know very early what you wanted to do, right? Like I know a bunch of folks who get into design but maybe don't want it, maybe are still exploring, still figuring it out, right? And again, it's such a hands-on discipline, right?
Yeah.
That if you have a creative kida, you're in it and doing something.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when was the first time that you felt, hey, this is where I wanted to go? How did that bug really bite you right at the beginning?
So I remember I had, so my best friend from Delhi, Chitwan, she had interned at MTV back in the days when I was in Delhi. And I used to pick assignments of all categories there.
Right.
Design assignments.
Right.
Anything and everything. So yeah, if I had to do an assignment for a senior, get money out of it, I would do that also. You'll say, okay, paint my scooter, I'll do that also. He'll say, modify my car, I'll do that also. You'll say, do interiors or do a wall painting, I'll do that. Everything that was multidisciplinary in that approach. I did everything to, get my life going that time. And that's when my best friend, she just went for the internship and she came back and then she's like, Rupin, this is what you need to enter. This is something called there's this stream called production design. And it's crazy. It has got everything that you do because you get to do everything. No 2 days are simple and the same. 13 years of my experience, I've never had 2 days and the same shit going.
Right.
I've never had that.
Right.
Like, I have not repeated any design element treatment a certain way where I feel that things are monotonous. And I think that's a superb stream. That's exactly what I was looking at. And I still thank her for that. And she said, you should do that. And then I applied for... So I guess that time Mr. Sabu Cyril had won National Award for Om Shanti Om.
Right.
And I just Googled and he happened to be the first person on the list. And I just mailed my portfolio, whatever I had, I just compiled and I sent it to him. I sent to him and I remember exactly after 8 months, I was on train coming to Gujarat. Ashram Express, Ahmedabad.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And he just calls me up and he's like, I want you in Bombay tomorrow. And, a very senior person.
Right,
And
of course.
40 years of experience. And I was like, who's this? He's like, I'm Sabu Cyril. You sent me your portfolio. I was emptying my trash bin and I happened to see that and I like it. So you come and meet me tomorrow. I said, sir, I am traveling right now. I cannot. He's like, sometimes you don't get the second opportunity.
Oh, shit.
And I was like, okay. So I took the train. I reached Ahmedabad and then I followed. And the same train ahead, I came to Mumbai. And I met him. I remember in Kamalistan, there was a set which was happening that time of Khatta Meetha. And he called me there for the interview. And not really an interview. He just wanted... So Ra.One was starting that time. And he's like, I'm starting this movie called Ra.One and, I would want you to join it. And it's just that much conversation of exactly 2 minutes I had with him.
Right.
And more than that conversation, it was about the ambience which I was in. Kamalistan, a proper Basti ka shoot was happening. There was Dharavi created. And there was some jugaad happening that time. They were trying to fix something. I don't remember now clearly. But I remember the fact that there was one department which was trying to do something. So I just got an idea and I told Sabu sir that time that, sir, they should do it like this. He's like, you don't worry about it. I said, okay, sir, no problem. So I'll stay out of it. So I said, fair enough. And I walked out. And that was it. But I really loved the fact that there were 10 people struggling to do something and that was the art department which I had now.
Right.
And they were trying to crack something which was not happening that time. Shoot was happening. Akshay is standing there. Camera is rolling. Priyadarshan sir is standing there. And I could see the tension. But I felt I felt like that little thing was calling me there just to address that problem and, do something about it. But yeah, so then I just dropped off all my commitments out there in Delhi and I said, okay, sir, I'll join you.
And that was the first film set you went on to?
That was the first film set I ever went on to. Yes, of course, I had seen a shoot back in the days.
Of course.
That was the only thing. But this was the first film set I ever went on to.
Love it.
And then he put me on to the core design team of Ra.One, which was a very experimental film for that time.
Right.
And so I remember starting off as the fourth assistant on that movie. And by the time the movie finished, I was the first assistant who was handling everything. And it took 4 years, like 3.5 years for us to complete that feature film. But it was an experience of a lifetime, man. It was crazy.
Love it.
It was beautiful. That's when the Kira set in.
Love it. I mean, man, I feel like we can ask you about different experiences and different styles and different films, and you'll have wonderful stories to share with us. And that's why you are a storyteller in the visual medium, right? And that's why you're the artist that you are today. Let me ask you this as sort of the last question before we wrap this up.
Yeah.
What would you say to a young... I'm not going to say art designer because that's limiting sort of, but someone who's designing spaces, right? In that sense, what would you say? What are there trends that you would call out to and say, hey, focus on this because this is what the future is? Or are there techniques that you would point to saying this is a technique or this is a way of looking at things that has stood the test of time? What would be your sort of maybe two or three pieces
I'm going
of
to talk
advice?
like a grandfather. I'm sorry. But this works, but really, it literally works. Get involved.
Right.
That's the only thing that I work with. Anything that you might be doing, it doesn't matter. You might be doing a big job or a very small. You might be designing some school project for a kid.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. You need to be there. If you are an artist, any designer, architect, interior designer, scenographer, production designer, fashion designer, whatever, artists in general, installation artists, anybody you name, till the time you have something from within that connects to the space, is brought out in the space, your space is not going to feel the same way.
Right.
And that's a given. This I can bet my life on. And if you're involved even for like a few minutes, it makes a massive difference. It will just change the game for you.
Right.
Like literally. This is not something that I say, this is what my guru says, but I just picked this up very closely from him. And I think I've experienced it, and I experience it every single day. If you just have to get involved in every little thing that's possible, and that involvement is going to grow bigger the moment you start getting involved.
Mm-hmm.
So when you consciously get involved, just be there. Like, today you might be breathing, but you're just breathing. You've taken it for granted. You're not like breathing.
Mindfulness.
You're not conscious about the fact that you're breathing. That breath is getting inside and you're alive because of that.
Right.
That is not happening. So that involvement factor, the moment you get and jump into that bit, that's the game changer. That just puts the person out of the park.
And that makes sense, right? Because you're building spaces for people to live and play and perform and
yeah. I mean, experience is one thing.
Exactly.
Experience will hone you as an individual, and it is going to put you at a level which you will start talking from.
Mm-hmm.
If today I am invited here to speak about a certain subject, my experience has put me here.
Right.
Nothing else.
Right.
Whatever good experience, bad experience, it makes you grow. It doesn't matter. You just learn from it, you go about it, and that's it. Design-wise also, the moment you start spending more and more time with experience, you will learn a lot of things. But the involvement is very essential.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not involved, your projects are not going to sail through. Things are not going to look the way you want them to look.
Right.
And even if it might be a small, it could be, I mean, your assistants have designed the bloody whole house. But just if you select that door handle a certain way, it can tell a story, man.
Right.
And I know that people will just notice some things and they will be like, wow, what is this? Who's done this? And this is what will get you more and more work. And essentially, we are all working to get more work.
Dhando kya hai?
Dhando kya hai, bro.
Love it. Rupin, thank you so much for being
Thank
on
you,
the
guys.
show.
Lovely.
It's wonderful having
It's
you.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Same
Thanks
here.
for sharing so much amazing work that you've done. Thanks for sharing those experiences. And I hope there is more and more amazing work coming to you.
Absolutely.
Probably not 1,000 projects in 13 years, but 1,000 more fulfilling ones to
absolutely.
you, right? That's it on this episode of Storytellers and Storysellers. If this episode inspired you to take up designing spaces, check out this game called Design Home. They're not paying me. I just enjoy playing it. It's a game where you design spaces as well, right? You get to
Sorry, I have not played that.
Yeah,
I'm going to play it.
Yeah, I'll share the link with you after the game.
Sure.
Again, they're not paying me, but they should. That's it. This was a wonderful episode. I've come away inspired to think about spaces differently, and I hope so have you. If you like this episode, please tell a friend who likes spaces and design and taste, and they might learn something from Rupin's experience as well. Rate our show if you liked this episode. Share it with a friend. And yeah, just say good things about how we're doing amazing work on this podcast, man. The team at IVM works really hard to put this together. So shout out to Saurabh and everyone here. That's it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having me. IVM especially. Thank you so much, guys. Everyone.
Lovely to have you on. That's it from me. This is Vineet Kanabar saying goodbye.